Now a good time to buy Bitcoin? Yes, but it's important to understand why. First of all, Bitcoin is at a $109,000 right now. And I personally have bought tens of thousands of dollars of Bitcoin at a price above $110,000. So while I'm way up on the vast majority of the Bitcoin I've ever bought, I am also down on tens of thousands of dollars of Bitcoin I bought at a price higher than today. So Bitcoin is significantly below its all-time high of $124,000. So it is on sale right now. But of course, we don't know. It could be more on sale in the future. And if you ask people like James Check, my favorite Bitcoin analyst, what's the lowest that Bitcoin could ever go in the future, he would say probably $80,000. So you're probably thinking, wait, why would Joel Baumgart buy Bitcoin right now if there's a chance it'll go lower? And the answer is because of the disparity, the difference between the upside versus the downside. Let's say there is a chance Bitcoin goes down to $80,000 for a matter of hours or days or something before it marches back up to 150,000. So let's say we're all certain that Bitcoin's going to 150 in the next, 6 to 12 months, probably by the end of the year, frankly, but who knows? And we're all certain it's going to go to $1 million in the next 5 to 10 years, which I think is a, reasonable estimation. And again, it has to go to more than $1 million per coin just to match the price of gold. And gold is just an inert yellow rock. And Bitcoin can be sent over the internet and used as money in a way gold never can and never will. So why do I say now is a good time to buy it at $109,000 if it could go lower? And the answer is because nobody knows if it will go lower. And the difference between the upside and the downside is so profound that it makes absolutely zero sense to try to time it and hope it goes lower. It just doesn't make any sense. Now, if it does go lower and you decide you want to buy more Bitcoin than you originally anticipated because it's on sale, great, good for you. I recommend that. But I do not recommend waiting with Bitcoin that you've, with money, US dollars, that you have already decided that you are going to turn into a better money, which is Bitcoin. I don't recommend waiting for a dip. Let me give you an example. Let's just use the round number of $1 million per coin, which Bitcoin would not even be as an asset as big as gold at $1 million per coin. All the gold in the world's worth $24 trillion. Bitcoin's only worth less than 2.4 trillion. So Bitcoin's worth less than 10% of the value of the gold in the world, which means Bitcoin needs to go up by a factor of 10 even to start getting close to parity. So 10x is 1,000%. So Bitcoin needs to go up 1,000% even to get in the same league as gold. So what if you think, I don't know what the exact percent down to 80,000 is. Let's call it 30%. It's not exactly 30%, but 109 down to, 80,000. I don't want to do the math in my head, so let's call it 30%. Let's say you think Bitcoin might drop by 30%. Okay, but that trade-off is 30%. You're trying to capture 30% down by potentially giving up 1,000% up. So let's say you walk in, to any odds game where you could win one way or you could lose another way, and somebody offers you 1,000 to 30 odds. You should always take the 1,000. Nobody wants to hear your sob story about how, hey, why didn't you buy a bunch of Bitcoin back when it was 109? Well, I thought it was going to go to 80. Well, then what happened? Well, it slowly marched to 1 million. Well, what'd you do? Well, I sat on my hands because I was waiting for 80 and it never came. So it's like, wait, you missed out on 1,000% return trying to get 30% more than 1,000. So you gave up 1,000% return by trying to get 1,030% return by buying it 30% cheaper. That just makes no sense. So not only that, but even if you were convinced that that was the best strategy to wait for a lower price, there is a high probability that you would not actually buy the Bitcoin if it actually starts going down. And the reason is because people freak out when prices start to fall. So as prices fall, people get cold feet. The Bitcoin that they committed themselves they were going to buy, they don't. For example, I bought a lot of Bitcoin back in 2017 and early 2018, around $9,000. And I committed to myself that I was going to buy a lot more if it was ever half that price at 4,500. Well, guess what? Bitcoin ultimately did go below 4,500 in the following months and years, temporarily, but I chickened out. I didn't have time to figure out why it was down. I was afraid maybe it was down for good. Maybe I had missed the boat. Maybe I was late to the party. Maybe I had missed out. and I did not buy a bunch of Bitcoin that I could have bought at 4,500. The same thing's going to happen to you. If you're thinking I could buy Bitcoin at, 109,000 right now, but I'll just wait. I'll wait for 95. I'll wait for 85. I'll wait for 80. There's a very good chance that when that number arrives, if that number arrives, which is not likely that it will, but it could, that you are not actually going to pull the trigger. So what if you set up a targeted order where you say, hey, I'm going to force my River account to buy Bitcoin at 85,000 or 95,000 or 100,000 or whatever. Guess what? There's a very good chance as it starts dropping, you're going to go cancel that order because it's going to be dropping and you're going to freak out like everyone freaks out, including all the reasons I did not buy a bunch of Bitcoin at 4,500. The cheapest I ever bought Bitcoin was 6,400 because I never bought the Bitcoin at 4,500 that I told myself I was going to. I never did it. I just never did it. Even if you could eliminate the possibility that you would chicken out, because somebody like me doesn't chicken out anymore. I mean, once you've been around Bitcoin for, 8 years, it's just, if you're going to buy it when it gets cheaper, you buy it when it gets cheaper. So even if you showed up and gave me $1,000 or $10,000 or $100,000 of your money and said, Joel, I want you to invest it. I don't want to have the ability to not invest it. So I want you to invest my money in Bitcoin at just the right time. First of all, I would not do that. I'm not licensed to do that for you. I would not do that for you. But even if I could, even if I had the license that allowed me to do that or whatever, even if I could, and you handed me $10,000 today and you said, Joel, all I care about is making the most money on my Bitcoin. You can wait as long as you want or as little as you want to invest it. Here's $10,000. I'll come back in 10 years and you just tell me what you did with it. If you handed me $10,000 of your money and my only job was to be a good steward of your money and to buy as much Bitcoin as I could with that money, I would immediately buy immediately buy $109,000 Bitcoin with your $10,000, like immediately. Now, if you came back the next day and said, hey, I said I wasn't going to check in for 10 years, but here I am the next day, what'd you do? I would say, well, I just bought Bitcoin immediately. And your answer would probably be, but wait, I told you could wait for a dip. I told you this. I told you all I care about is how much total Bitcoin I own in the long term. My answer is, yeah, the best way to make sure you own the most Bitcoin in the long term is to buy it at $109,000. Because, again, going back to that thing, I don't want you to come back in 10 years and you say, hey, Bitcoin's over $1 million. How much did my $10,000 turn into? And my answer would be, $10,000. And you're like, why? And I was like, well, I waited for a dip that never happened. And so I was hoping to get you, Bitcoin at a 5, 10, 20% discount, 30% discount. But it never came. And so, it turns out I had to buy the Bitcoin. I never bought the Bitcoin and here's your $10,000 back. Should have been 100,000. But it's just 10,000 because I never actually bought it. So there's just no way to win that one. There's just no way to win a game of trying to time a market. You cannot time a market. It doesn't work for Bitcoin. It doesn't work for stocks. It doesn't work for bonds. It doesn't work for anything. You can't time the market, which is why the saying in investing is time in the market is better than time ing the market. So time in the market means if I invest right now, then I have the most time in the market because the amount of time that money is in the form of Bitcoin money is longer. If I invest it immediately when you give me that money, then it's in the market longer than if I wait a week or a month or a year and I keep hoping the price will hit 95,000 or 105 or 92 or 88 or 82 or whatever. That is all time I'm not in the market. And there are numerous people throughout the history of Bitcoin that never bought because the price never got to the price they wanted to buy, including a friend of mine who sold all his Bitcoin at $10,000. When it was $100 Bitcoin, he sold 100 Bitcoin at, $100 Bitcoin. And then it went up to $30,000, which means $300. So he sold it at $100 and then it went up to $300 and then he was going to buy it back if it went lower and it never did. So, he could have had 100 Bitcoin, which is worth more than $10 million right now. It's about 11 million. He could have had $11 million for $30,000. because he could have bought $300 Bitcoin, but he didn't because he had sold it all at $10,000 for 100 Bitcoin, which is $100 a Bitcoin. He had sold it all at $100 and didn't want to buy it back at $300 because he was waiting for the dip. Well, that dip never came. The Bitcoin was never $100 ever again, and that's been the story over and over and over for numerous people throughout history, the entire history of Bitcoin. So, what would I do if I had any money to invest right now, which I don't because it's all in Bitcoin? If I had any at all, I would buy Bitcoin at $109,000 or 109,400, whatever it is. I would buy it right now. If the price pops to $115,000 in the next 5 minutes and I still had dollars, I would buy it at 115,000 because there's no other good option. There just isn't. If you wait, you risk getting left in the cold. And the disparity of the massive upside compared to the comparatively modest downside of a price discount you can get by buying it cheaper. I know psychologically it's what you want to do. And I know psychologically it feels like, yeah, but I'd feel a lot better buying Bitcoin at 85 instead of 109. I know that's the way you feel, but I can tell you, as someone who's regretted for the last 8 years not buying all that Bitcoin at 4,500 that I told myself I was going to, that you're either not going to do it or it's never going to come. And the high probability that you're never going to do it or that it's never going to come is so high that is absolutely not worth giving up on 1,000% upside, chasing 5, 10, 20, 25% downside. It's just not worth it. So my recommendation stays the same. Buy as much Bitcoin as you can. Hold on to it for as long as conceivably possible. That's the only formula that works. And I wish I had done that at $9,000, not promise myself that I was going to buy more at 4,500 if it ever got there. And it did, and I didn't. And I'm all the poorer for it. And so I can continue to believe that now is a great time to buy Bitcoin.